The Galactic Council had ruled for 1,000 cycles, their power unquestioned. They judged entire species, brought empires to their knees, and decided the fate of stars. And on this day they were judging humanity. From the main podium, the Dominion's High Ambassador, magnificent in his armored regalia, loomed over the human representative. Standing alone, Ambassador Chun Wei was a simple figure in a plain suit, his face set with a grim seriousness. "You speak of consequences, human?" The ambassador's voice boomed, dripping with contempt. "Your species has barely learned to crawl out of its own solar system. You plead for peace because you're too weak for war. We've heard your final warning. Consider it ignored." Cold, alien laughter echoed from the assembled delegates. The vote was just a formality. The Dominion's plan to pacify the insolent humans passed almost unanimously. The High Ambassador leaned in, his voice a venomous whisper. "Go back to your mudball, human. Tell your people the masters of the galaxy are coming. We will burn the very memory of your defiance from the stars." Ambassador Chun didn't even flinch. He just gave a slight, chilling bow. "So be it," he said, his voice quiet, yet it cut through all the arrogance in the room. "You have been warned. It was a mistake that would shatter an empire and set the galaxy ablaze." The council was about to learn a terrible lesson. Humanity wasn't weak, they'd just been holding back. Aboard the Dominion flagship, the indomitable Will, Fleetmaster Kalen watched the shimmering tunnel of hyperspace collapse. There on the main view screen, hanging like a serene blue jewel, was Earth. His fleet of 2,000 warships materialized around him, a swarm of glittering blades ready to end a civilization. "Status report," Kalen commanded, a smirk on his lips. "All ships report green." "Fleetmaster," an officer replied. "The human defense grid is active, but it's primitive. Kinetic barriers, projectile weapons. It's almost charming." Kalen chuckled. This wasn't a war, it was an extermination. For cycles, the Dominion had watched humanity. They saw a fractured, emotional species always at war with itself, yet begging for peace in the galactic community. They saw the Dominion-sanctioned slaughter on Ganymede not as a catalyst for humanity's rage, but as proof of their weakness. They saw the constant pleas for diplomacy as the whimpering of a lesser species. The humans had been warned, embargoed, and punished for daring to expand to Mars and Europa. Yet they persisted, their defiance nothing more than a gnat's buzz to a giant. "Their main fleet is moving to intercept from Titan's orbit," the tactical officer noted. 50 ships. Pathetic. "Engage the outer colonies first," Kalen ordered. "Break their orbital defenses. Show them how hopeless this is. I want their surrender broadcast on all channels within the hour." The Fleetmaster settled back into his command throne, already imagining the glory. He would be the one to finally bring these troublesome apes to heel. That final warning from their ambassador? It was nothing but the last, desperate bluff of a dying species. The first wave of the Dominion attack was exactly as overwhelming as they'd planned. Lances of pure energy sliced through the Martian orbital stations. The small human defense fleet charged bravely into the storm and was swatted aside like flies. Silent explosions bloomed in the void, one-sided and brutal. On the bridge of the indomitable Will, the crew erupted in cheers. "Fleetmaster, the human fleet has been neutralized," the tactical officer reported, beaming with victory. "Their Martian colony is hailing us, trying to surrender." "Ignore it," Kalen said coldly. "Level their main spaceport. Let the inner planets watch. Let them understand the real price of defiance." He watched as plasma torpedoes rained down on the red planet. Victory was just moments away. And then, something strange happened. The remaining human ships didn't run. They didn't try to surrender. They just stopped. All across the system, from the battered wrecks near Mars to the defense fleets around Earth, every single human vessel went dark. Their energy signatures vanished. Their communications went dead. The entire Sol system fell into a deep, unnatural silence. "What is this?" Kalen muttered, leaning forward. "Did they panic and overload their own systems?" "I don't know, Fleetmaster," his sensor chief replied, a note of confusion in his voice. It's like they just ceased to exist. All of them, all at once." For a moment, An unsettling quiet fell over the Dominion bridge. The celebration died in their throats. This wasn't surrender. It wasn't defeat. This was something else. Something cold and deliberate. The silence was suddenly heavier than any explosion, and more threatening than any war cry. Kalen felt the first, cold prickle of unease crawl up his spine. "Scan the system," he commanded, his voice tight. "Every frequency, every spectrum, find them." But there was nothing to find. Only the void, and the silence. The silence broke. It wasn't a sound, but a signal. A single, system-wide broadcast that hijacked every Dominion comms channel, every view screen, blowing past security protocols they thought were impenetrable. On the main screen of the indomitable will, the face of a human woman appeared. Her eyes were ice, her expression totally flat. Behind her, a command center hummed with an unnerving, focused calm. "This is Fleet Admiral Eva Rostova of the Seoul Defense Force," she stated, her voice sharp and brittle. "For centuries, we pleaded for peace. We endured your arrogance, your betrayals, and your massacres. We mourned our dead on Ganymede when you slaughtered our people and called it justice. You mistook our restraint for weakness. That was your final mistake. The time for mercy is over." Her eyes seemed to look right through the screen, directly at Kalen. "The reckoning has begun." And then the void itself answered. From the darkness behind Jupiter, a ship emerged. It was a monster, bigger than 10 of Kalen's flagships put together. Its hull was a jagged, brutalist block of scarred metal that seemed to absorb the starlight. It wasn't a ship, it was a monument to forgotten wars. Then another appeared from the dark side of Neptune. Then 5 more from the chaos of the asteroid belt. In seconds, the system was flooded with them. Thousands of them. A ghost fleet, rising from some unseen graveyard of history. "Where did they come from?" an officer screamed. Kalen could only stare, his arrogance vaporizing into pure, raw terror. These weren't the sleek, fragile ships they just shattered. These were ancient. They felt wrong. Then the human fleet attacked. There was no grand charge, no heroic maneuver. There was only annihilation. Beams of impossible energy, blacker than space itself, reached out and simply erased Dominion warships. There was no explosion, no wreckage. One moment, a cruiser was there. The next, it was just gone. Its very existence wiped from reality. Swarms of human fighters, moving with a fluid, insect-like precision, descended on the fleet. They didn't dogfight, they dismantled. They targeted bridges, engines, and life support systems with cold, surgical efficiency. At the same time, a new alert screamed across Kalen's console, a system-wide virus. A stealth satellite had deployed a nanovirus, and now Dominion AI systems were turning on themselves. On ship after ship, automated defenses fired on their own allies, navigation systems steered vessels into each other, and life support vented atmospheres into the void. It was internal sabotage on a scale no one had ever imagined possible. The bridge of the indomitable will fell into chaos. Officers shrieked as their consoles showed their sister ships being gutted from the inside out. Through the view screen, Kalen watched his glorious fleet, the pride of the Dominion, being executed with the detached efficiency of a slaughterhouse. This wasn't war. It was an extermination. Humanity hadn't just been holding back a bigger fleet, they'd been holding back an entirely different kind of war. A war without honor or glory. A war of absolute, merciless termination. The battle, if you could even call it that, lasted 11 minutes. The wreckage of 2,000 Dominion warships formed a new, silent ring of debris around the sun. Fleet Master Kalen floated in the remains of his command chair, the emergency recorder on his suit capturing his last, choked words. "They weren't weak, they were waiting," he gasped, blood flecking his lips. "They are not the children of a single world, they are the inheritors of 1,000 wars. They are ancient." His message was cut short as a human salvage drone attached a small mine to the wreckage and silently withdrew. The resulting explosion was brief and very final. A short time later, a new broadcast went out from Earth on every galactic frequency. It showed the captured Dominion leaders from the attack, including the governor who ordered the Ganymede massacre. There was no trial. The same cold voice of Fleet Admiral Rostova spoke as the executions were carried out, live for the entire galaxy to see. You demanded our submission, the voice stated. Instead, accept this message. We no longer ask for peace. We no longer beg for mercy. We are humanity, and from this day forward, we will be the lesson. It wasn't a boast. It was a promise. A message delivered through the total annihilation of an enemy. Back in the halls of the Galactic Council, there was only stunned silence. The Dominion's High Ambassador stood frozen, his face a mask of horror as he watched the live feed from the Sol system. The reports flooding in were even worse. It wasn't just the fleet. Across a dozen sectors, key Dominion outposts and military bases had gone dark, their systems crippled by the same insidious nanovirus. This hadn't been a desperate defense. This was a coordinated, galaxy-spanning counterattack, launched in minutes. The other delegates, the ones who had laughed at Ambassador Chinwei, now stared at the Dominion ambassador not with sympathy, but with fear. They began to slowly edge away, as if his arrogance was a disease they might catch. They had all been complicit. They had all poked the sleeping giant. And in that moment they finally understood. Humanity's endless history of internal warfare wasn't a sign of a fractured, primitive species. It was a training ground. Millennia of conflict had forged them into something the galaxy had never conceived of, a species that had perfected the art of war to such a horrifying degree that they'd grown to hate it, choosing to hold back their true potential out of a self-imposed morality. A morality the galaxy had just forced them to cast aside. The laughter was gone. The arrogance was ash. All that remained in the grand hall of the Galactic Council was a chilling, silent dread. A new galactic order had just been born, not in a treaty, but in fire and silence. And a terrifying question now echoed in the minds of every being in the galaxy. If this is what humanity does when they stop holding back, what would happen if they ever decided to truly go to war? The galaxy would never again make the mistake of asking. They had their answer. They had their lesson. And they would spend the next 1,000 years living in the shadow of it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story about humanity's terrifying potential, be sure to like, comment with your thoughts below, and subscribe for more epic sci-fi stories. We'll see you in the next one.